The difficulties of modern life for the surviving nomads of southern Morocco, now on BBC World. Threats to their livelihood from all directions, as Ali SBAI reports, for villages on the front line.
A spectre is haunting the world. The livelihoods of nearly 1 billion people could be at risk. Worldwide, farmland nearly the size of the United States could turn into a dust bowl. Desertification is on the march. Countries are consuming too much water. The land is being overburdened by too many people, too much livestock, and too many harvests. 2006 is the UN's International Year of Desertification. The front line in our series is the advancing desert. But what about those who live behind the front line, the people who live in the desert itself? The deserts of our world are home to millions of people. They move their settlements with their livestock and with seasonal rainfall. Their strategy to cope in an arid land is to move to where there is pasture and water. But very few these days live a completely nomadic existence, with all their worldly goods carried by a donkey or camel. This is the true desert, where rainfall does not go over 25 centimeters in a year. We are going on a journey with Ali SBAI across southern Morocco. Ali is a physicist and a manager with the International Telecommunications Union in Geneva. He is the unlikeliest of UN bureaucrats, because he was born in a nomad's tent in the Sahara to unlettered parents who are now both dead. But out here, somewhere in this expanse of rock and sand, in the borderland with Algeria and Mauritania, is his 80-year-old uncle, living a lifestyle perfectly adapted to this harshest of environments. Ali SBAI wants to find him, in maybe the last chance he has to see his uncle again.
Je suis né derrière ces dunes.
I was born behind these dunes in a place called El Feteg, near Lake Iriki, which unfortunately is now dry. My nomadic family was formed from 3 ethnic groups, 2 on my mother's side, El Gwassem and Rigeibat, and Sebei on my father's side. My main reason for coming back to the desert is to rediscover my roots. It was here that I was born and looked after the goats. I possibly learnt more here than I did at school. Finding one's roots is also a way of rediscovering the essential. It brings back wonderful memories and gives me the chance to share good times with the people who taught me so many things.
Hussein is Ali's childhood friend. It's as if they live in parallel worlds. Unlike Ali, Hussein never went to school. The desert is his entire world, and his daily ritual starts with rounding up his camels that have wandered free at night to forage for sparse vegetation. Hussein has never felt the urge to leave his world. He is a master at surviving in a landscape where 99% of humanity would perish. Whenever Ali returns to the Sahara, he always sets out to find Hussein, who lives with his camels near the Mohammed oasis. For Ali SBAI, Hussein is more than just a close friend. He is the indispensable guide who will help him find his uncle in the Sahara. Depending on your point of view, deserts are either a gift or a curse of nature. They advance and retreat with rainfall. We know from cave paintings that as recently as 5,000 years ago, this was a well-watered savanna landscape. But as the climate dried out, the woodland and grassland became desert. The change was gradual enough for man to adapt, and to store and pass on the knowledge of how to make a living here.
This plant is called spot. It grows only in sand because sand stores moisture at night, so this plant feeds mostly at night. What is so amazing in the desert is that each terrain has its own plants, and this one grows in the sand. The camels love it because it also provides them with some water, so with this plant they can eat and drink at the same time. For me, this plant symbolizes the miracle of life in the desert.
The Sahara covers 4.6 million square kilometers and accounts for 1/10 of the land surface of Africa. Before the development of sea and air trade routes, all goods had to cross the Sahara. The merchants and their camel caravans have always known how to find water and food for themselves and their animals in this hostile environment. The caravans have all but vanished, and with them their survival knowledge. The remaining nomads have preserved that knowledge. Here, every plant is valued for its special properties.
This is rocket from the desert, which grows in this region. The nomads call it the spicy, because it really is very spicy. It's very juicy too.
It's a very useful plant, and it's picked when it has grown high. It is then cut up, moistened, and left to dry. It's cooked with soup, couscous, and sometimes rice. In general, it can be cooked with lots of different foods.
Ali SBAI's parents are no longer alive, but one of his uncles is still alive, and Ali and Hussein are hot on his trail. But he's an elusive quarry, moving across a vast triangle of desert shared by Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Ali gets lucky. He hears from a nomad that his uncle was spotted heading south into Mauritania. He is a mere 3 days' walk ahead of Ali and Hussein. En route, Ali comes across a grove of the local acacia, for the nomad, a highly valued multi-purpose tree.
This is an acacia from the region, reputed to have medicinal qualities. For this reason it is sacred, and the nomads never cut this tree. The camels can eat the leaves, and sometimes the nomads use the resin, which is excellent. They put it in their tea and call the drink elk. They sometimes use the bark of the tree to clean their teeth. This is an absolute sacrilege. This tree has just been cut. Unfortunately, this is something that occurs more and more frequently. It was probably cut by the tourist caravans which came through here. They don't know the desert, and as they need wood every evening for their fire to cook and keep themselves warm, they cut down the nearest tree. This shows an absolute ignorance of this environment and the fragility of the plants which grow in the desert. They can cope with the harsh nature of the region, but not with human stupidity. The golden rule of the nomads is to never cut a living tree to make a fire. This rule is sacred and shows respect for life. By cutting this acacia, they have massacred desert life. They've killed part of what is essential in the desert, for man as well as the animals.
It is late afternoon when Ali comes across a camp. He meets Zahar Ibrahim, whom he has known since childhood. Then, as now, there is nothing aimless about the wandering of people like Zahara.
What exactly brought you here?
There's a bit more grass here than elsewhere. There's a bit to eat, so we'll stay a while. We'll definitely stay here for the summer.
So, is it better here for the livestock?
Yes, it's better here.
How much livestock do you have?
We have 100 goats and 30 or 40 sheep.
So, you've got about 130 head altogether.
Yes, 130, including the newborn.
Who looks after the livestock?
My two daughters take it in turns. Yesterday it was Hadija, and today it's Hia.
Zahar Ibrahim and her family walked for days to bring their animals to graze on these small green patches which appear miraculously in the desert. Plants and animals have developed amazing ways of adapting to this hostile environment, creating an exceptional but extremely fragile ecosystem. Today, all-terrain vehicles mean there is no part of the Sahara that is out of bounds. The Paris to Dakar rally has inspired thousands of tourists to go off-road. After the grass has been crushed by a four-wheel drive vehicle, it will take decades for the vegetation to recover. These tourists have little or no knowledge of the havoc they are wreaking on the desert ecosystem and on the lives of the nomads who depend upon it.
Alors je précise, le désert business, c'est tout ce tourisme.
As far as I'm concerned, this desert tourism is threatening the way of life of the nomads.
Qui agresse l'environnement du désert.
It's damaging the desert environment and threatening all the species of life in the desert. It's the predator of nomadism. I've uncles and aunts in this region, and it takes me 3 or 4 days to find them every time I come, because they've fled certain areas. I love walking, so that's not a problem. But it shows that the nomads have been forced to flee certain areas, and they're now confined to a more restricted area. I think the time has now come to regulate access to the desert, so that these magnificent open spaces can be preserved. We're talking about a place on Earth where there is purity, where there is an ancestral way of life that could show all of us how to find the essential and get rid of the futile things in our lives. With my friends in Mauritania, Niger and Mali, I've even thought about creating a desert charter. There should be nature reserves without fences but regulated. In these reserves, organized rallies and any type of motorized event should be banned. But I wouldn't go as far as banning all motorized vehicles. It is essential that the countries concerned develop a form of ecotourism specific to the desert. I don't mean that everybody has to travel on foot, but there should be some respect for the desert. We should be inspired by those who have lived here for centuries, even thousands of years, and we should follow their example and respect the desert. I'm inspired by them, and it gives me such happiness to share their way of life. That's all I have to say.
Ali and Hussein join up with a group of nomads who are heading towards the Great Dune of Lorraine. Rumour has it that it rained there a few days ago and that pastures have sprung up out of the desert. It is highly likely that the news has also reached Ali's uncle and that he too is heading for the Lorraine Dune.